let's go to the mother of all crown jewels. You know, they are trying to make Saudi Arabia seem like this new age is dawning. This new, what did they call it? At one point they were calling it an Arab Spring a while back in other countries when they started to come into the modern era and leave the Neanderthal caveman stuff behind. And now they're doing this as a PR campaign to basically tell everybody how great Saudi Arabia is. It was every head rolling down the hill has a crown on it at the crown jewel. A place that brings out the best for all the world to see was a line in the cold open package. A place that brings out the best for all the world to see.
That's right. Now that women are allowed to show their eyes, even the women in Saudi Arabia can see it.
They blew off more pyro than they did in the Gulf War. And instead of, I got a kick, I must admit, I watched the Open because I wanted to see how they were going to say this. We're in Saudi Arabia, a place where the government kills journalists and fucking cuts them up with bone saws and fucking puts them in suitcases and carries them out of embassies. And we consider women to be, property, and or they must be covered up because we obviously can't contain our horniness, because since we're all a bunch of religious lunatics and God will get mad at us if we have sex, we got to cover the women up and jack off in a corner and not tell anybody. What the fuck? And then Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton, instead of introducing the Spanish language announcers or the other, they introduced the Arabic announcers, Fubar Makafakalub and Slapko Fudd. I get somehow what? Corey Graves nailed these names. Corey Graves pronounced these names like he'd been doing it all of his life. Maybe he's part Saudi. I don't know. But this whole thing is so we'll get to the women in a minute, but it's preposterous. A long sleeve shirt on a dumpy referee that looks like she's a cashier at Arby's, because somehow if she's showing her arms, that's going to send the entire population of this screwball country into a fucking horny sex frenzy. So she was the referee for the Hell in a Cell match, which went on first. Seth Rollins and Edge, Hell in a Cell. First match on the show. They have camels stage side just in case. And these people, what? Go ahead.
They don't have to worry about the ASPCA or PETA over there, I don't think.
No, they're probably going to eat the camels as soon as they're finished carrying people to the ring. But the people over there, they're obviously with the program and with the, they know who the people are. Edge was over, and especially with Goldberg, because it's like all international shows in foreign countries. It was like this in the 80s for the WWF, and everybody in the business used to say this, that the international markets are years behind America, not in terms of, oh, they're so behind they don't have electricity over there. I'm talking about in terms of who's over and what's hot. And the people in international markets, were always, that's why when guys would be released from the WWF, they would go on these independent tours and they would still be big names and they would draw because the people would think they're still with the WWF. Maybe now in today's internet era, that's tightened up a little bit, but you could tell that they were still happier to see a guy like Goldberg, and they knew the entrance and the chant and the whole thing, than they were more of the modern people. You see what I'm saying? There's a little bit of a time lag. You get over here first, and then the TV goes over at other places and you get over other areas first. But I really want to like Edge, and I really want to like Seth Rollins' matches, even though, as we've mentioned, the interviews of both these guys, they're just telling them to do drama class shit, and they're writing scripts for them and everything. It's instead of doing wrestling promos off the top of their head. But this match, I understand, a lot of people went batshit for this. Oh, it was a great match. They started at 100 miles an hour, punching each other 1,000 times. And then Seth took a bump and rolled out. And within 1 minute, he had missed a dive out of the ring into the cage. You can have a match even in the cage. I feel like we missed the first 10 minutes of this match because they just started at 100 miles an hour. It's the first match on the show. Maybe they had a warm-up match, I don't know, but the people are still pretty easy. So instead of starting the match and fucking take a bump in the ring or two before you hit the floor and start rattling each other off onto the steps and the cage. And there was one bump in the ring, and then they were out on the floor. Edge pulls 2 chairs out from under the ring. He grabbed the metal rod, the chair strut that they've been using for the cross faces. Seth got it and tried to stab him in the eye. So now it's the first match on the show. There's already chairs in the ring. We're in a cage to begin with, hat on a hat. And now Seth Rollins, 4 minutes, not 4 minutes into the match, is trying to stab Edge in the eye with a metal rod. Then they go back to the floor and into the cage. All this stuff looks brutal. We just started in the middle of a fucking match. We started in 10 minutes in with gimmicks in a gimmick match. And then Seth got one of the chairs and hit Edge hard 7 times over and over. Just like he's trying to kill a goddamn cockroach. Then he put the chair under Edge's head, took the other chair, and he was going to give him the concerto, but Edge, who just literally seconds earlier had been obliterated by 7 Paul Bunyan chair shots, grabs Seth his ankle, trips him, just pulls his legs out from under him with one arm, and gets him in a crossface. But Seth gets the chair spoke and stabs Edge in the eye. We're less than 10 minutes into this match, and I can't take it anymore. I'm starting to think, should I fast forward? But then Seth hit a beautiful frog splash off the top rope and got a 2 count. That kept me for a second. Then right as soon as he did that, he rolled out and pulled out a table from under the ring. And I said, fuck it, I'm done. I'm going to skip 10 minutes, see what happens. Because, by the way, did I mention I'm watching this on the cock? I got no on-screen fast forward. When I turned this thing on, it said the show was 4 hours and 7 minutes long. Brian, does anybody in the world want a 4-hour blowjob?
It depends. I mean, who are you with?
Well, I mean, at some point, goddamn, take a break, get a Sprite, walk around, watch some TV.
Get a Sprite?
Yeah. Got to keep hydrated. The show is 4 hours long, and it's on Peacock, and there's no on-screen fast forward, so you can't tell what, because the entrances are interminable. And then there's the PR pieces. And then I found out too late, and I told you this, and you didn't even know, that the Crown Jewel was actually also a pay-per-view. It was on the regular pay-per-view channels.
I had no idea. I did not hear a single word about it being available anywhere other than Peacock. I had no idea.
And how, if they're going to air it, I would have paid the $50 so I could have had on-screen fast-forward capability. Because I hate the Peacock. We know that me and the cock don't get along. So I would have paid the $50 to be able to fast-forward some shit and not have to fucking go back and forth, blah, blah, blah. But also, how stupid are they? They've got a pay-per-view on a pay-per-view channel, and they don't tell anybody that it's available. So anyway, I skip ahead 10 minutes. Don't know what was happening. But when I come back, Edge is in the ring laying under a ladder. Seth Rollins has set a table up in the middle of the ring and is laying Edge on top of it. So in other words, this is every fucking match ever. Can we have a match without chairs and tables and kendo sticks and furniture and stupidity. Because it's just repetitive, repetition repeated repetitively. Seth sets the ladder in the corner and climbs up, and he's going to fucking jump off on him. But Edge comes up to fight him. They tease a superplex off of it, but don't. They fight some more. And then Seth sunset flip power bombs Edge off the top of the ladder through the table in the middle of the ring. Cover, 2 count. Fuck. 5 more minutes. They're still going. Edge is now tying up Seth Rollins with a chain. Plus, he's got a crossface on Seth with the spoke of the chair in his mouth. And then he lets him go. Right as Seth is going to tap. Then I say he's going to tap. Then he lets him go. Because then he gets a chair. He puts the chair. He takes a chair in his hand. He doesn't just draw back and just scramble Seth's brains with the chair. Instead, he puts the chair under Seth's head. Seth, cooperates by staying there. And then Edge hits the ropes and comes back and gives him a curb stomp on the chair. That's it. 1, 2, 3. This was almost 30 minutes. Nobody could live through all this. Gimmicks everywhere. In the first match on the show, interminably long furniture matches that numb people to every bump in the book. That's the perfect place to put it on first. So everybody's seen everything before anybody else gets a chance to get in the ring. Your thoughts?
Well, I hated the match, and I've hated this feud. And I forgot about Crown Jewel, so I turned it on as it was already happening, and this was the first match I saw. Because it was Hell in a Cell, I thought I missed half the show. So I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And I even tweeted out, hey, how many more matches are left? Do I have time to get coffee before, the one match that you want to see?
Yeah.
Everyone replied, there's plenty of time. There's all these other matches. And I did. I went out and got coffee, got a Wendy's grilled chicken sandwich, came back, and got to watch the last 3 matches.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to do after this and what I did were 2 different things. Because what I wanted to do after this was just give up on the whole thing and say, well, I'm not going to sit through another 3.5 hours of this nonsense just to see the one match between Reigns and Brock Lesnar. But then I decided, if I just walked away for a little while and did something fun and then came back, then I would probably, I'd probably be able to sit through the rest of the show. So what I did was I went ahead and I just took a few minutes, sat down, pulled out the Lawnmower 4.0 and shaved my balls.
Hold on. I did not think this is where you were going. This is what you did in the middle of Crown Jewel? You shaved your Crown Jewels?
Yes, I certainly did. I got those jewels slicker than cum on a gold tooth because, folks, do you know what's spookier than seeing a black cat on Halloween? It's shaving your balls with anything other than Manscaped. Because when it comes to below-the-waist grooming or below-the-belt grooming, there's no need to carve your pumpkins this Halloween because Manscaped is here to upgrade your grooming experience. Go from a bite-sized candy bar to a king-size candy bar and join the 2 million men. Does yours melt, Brian? And join the 2 million men worldwide by going to manscaped.com/JCE for 20% off and free shipping. Everything on the site. Folks, have you ever tried to trim your balls and it turned into a Freddy Krueger film? Have you ever tried to shave your crotchal and taint area and you looked like Ted DiBiase run through a razor blade factory in a 1985 Mid-South television program? Well, Manscaped is here to save the day and make sure that you're slick shaved and smelling fresh with the Performance Package 4.0, the new refined body wash, the greatest personal grooming product on the planet, the Lawnmower 4.0. It's a full moon out and the werewolf in your pants is howling, Brian. The The finely tuned trimmers in the Lawnmower 4.0 feature a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to the advanced skin-safe technology. And you've also got the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer that helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in all of your delicate holes. Folks, if you want to stick something in any delicate hole, make sure that it's manufactured by Manscaped. Seal the deal with their liquid formulations, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. Manscaped will even throw in 2 free gifts to the Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. So, folks, if you're looking like Wolverine and you haven't cut your nails recently, be sure to look into the Shears 2.0 Nail Kit as well. Life-changing products from our friends at Manscaped, and 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/JCE. Say trick or treat to your beautiful new Halloweeny with Manscaped. Woo-hoo-hoo.
All right. Well, speaking of weenies, Crown Jewel was still taking place when we last spoke about it.
Yeah. Well, the next match was Mustafa Ali versus Mansoor. And, you know, I knew a guy one time. He was a real lowlife. He was born in the sewer, he lived in the sewer, and he died in the sewer. He committed suicide.
I was going to say, I thought that was Terry Taylor's nickname, Mansoor.
Man, is he always sore. Yeah, you know, you heard what the Norse god of thunder said to the girl after the orgy, didn't you?
No, what's that?
He said, "Hi, I'm Thor." And she said, "You're Thor. I'm Thor. I can hardly pith." But anyway, so Mustafa Ali and Mansoor had a match because Mansoor is from Saudi Arabia. They're using the hometown guy. Nothing the matter with that. Of course, these two idiots thanked each other on Twitter for this grudge match they had. What an honor it was to be in the ring with you, you fine sir, even though we were supposed to hate each other from what we did on television. So they're fucking actors playing parts, not wrestlers. Also, Mansoor was from he's the one from Saudi Arabia. He didn't get to ride the camel. Later on, fucking bird ass Riddle rides the camel. So the guy from Saudi Arabia didn't get to ride the camel, but the stoner got to ride the camel. Anyway, they had a match and they did an angle at the end with a Saudi Arabian Olympian was he from the karate team or the judo team, or what specific combat sport was he an Olympian from?
I'm not sure, but they were screaming about this guy once he revealed who he was, because no one knew who the fuck he was when he walked in the ring, and once they revealed who he was, I still didn't know. The people there seem to know, but
yeah, well,
I have no idea who
this guy was. Like us seeing Kurt Angle when he was in the Olympics, but not a pro wrestler. It's their Olympians, so they knew who he was. We didn't, but anyway, he knocked Ali out with a kick. And then they did this segment. Did you see you might have been getting your Wendy's, and that would have probably been a better use of your time. Beth Phoenix, poor thing, and Titus O'Neil were in the ring, and they did a ceremony for breast cancer with breast cancer survivors from Saudi Arabia. And there's nothing wrong with that on the surface of it, except these poor women were wearing these ridiculous mummy wrappings while being honored for surviving breast cancer. They're still in those goddamn scuba diving outfits, covered up from asshole to appetite. And so the government of Saudi Arabia thinks this is a positive thing, a positive way that they can be portrayed when they have these poor women who have survived breast cancer and they've still got to wear these ridiculous outfits because of their strange mental deficiencies about the way they relate to other human beings in that fucking country. Now, America's got no room to scoff at elected officials basing public policy and social standards on the delusional belief in a fictitious supreme being instead of reality. However, this is taking it way too far. So they did that to these poor women. They were probably like, we survived breast cancer. We just can't fucking show anybody our breasts. So then they had the match where you were still at Wendy's, right?
Yes, I believe I missed all this.
Good. They had a match between AJ Styles and his partner Almost, who's almost ready to be a wrestler, against RK Bro, who came out in the entranceway, and then Riddle turns around and leaves Orton standing there, and Orton's like, well, where could he have gone? And they wait forever, and then here comes Riddle riding the camel. And I decided I was going to ride the camel right past this match. I don't know if the birds flew out of his ass on his introduction. I forgot to stay long enough to watch. But I hit my button, and 10 minutes later, it came up, and Riddle was managing somehow to make AJ Styles look like shit with some awkward back and forth. So if he can do that to one of the best wrestlers in the business, I'm sure he can probably make anybody look like they don't know what they're doing. So I gave him 5 more minutes, and it was over. Instead, we were starting Zelina Vega versus Dewdrop. Did you see any of that?
I saw the end of that somewhat. So I'm guessing I didn't go yet to get my coffee, because I do remember seeing some of this.
Well, I hope it was a chilly night in Saudi Arabia. I don't know what the weather's like over there, but these girls were wearing these fucking Arctic parkas. Poor Dewdrop looked like it was a tarpaulin over a freezer. She's wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, and she's a sizable young lady anyway. And it didn't, the girls and the next girls match. It's ridiculous. It looks unprofessional. Anyway, so they had this match. And then they did another big package to make Saudi Arabia look good. They had no comments from Jamal Khashoggi's family or friends on this package. Possibly some of his fingers may have been in the stadium. I'm sure they probably put all of his body parts kind of spread out where they wouldn't all be found in the same place. Did you see any of Goldberg and Lashley?
Actually, I did see some of this, yes.
Well, this was a mixed bag. As I said, Saudi Arabia, they were with Goldberg like it was 1999, and they gave him the whole thing, the security, the door knock, the long walk.
Did you see the security? Did you see some of those security guards?
Well, yeah. Well, they just pick up random schlubs wherever, but, we're not expecting that these people should actually look like legitimate security. Are we at this stage of the game?
Why is Goldberg the one guy that needs security?
Well, we don't really know. That's never been established. Is it that they're afraid that because he's such a celebrity, people are going to try to attack him? Are they afraid that he's going to go off like Brock Lesnar and attack the people? What exactly is the reason for all that security?
They're afraid he's going to do a promo.
That may be possible. So the whole thing, it takes forever, but the people like it. And he looks great for his age. I mean, I'm not saying that. And as we've mentioned, the combined age of of Bobby Lashley and Goldberg is 97, right? 45 for Lashley, 52 for Goldberg. Is that what we came up with?
I think
a while
so.
Back?
Yeah.
So for a combined age of 97, this wasn't a bad match, but what the fuck are that? Does anybody bother to stop and think about any kind of quality control or make any sense with this? They announce the match ready to begin, the bell rings, Lashley's in the corner, and he's got his back turned to Goldberg, and he's wrapping a chain around his fist. Now, the chain in wrestling around the fist is a tried and true, old as the hills wrestling gimmick. You can make your own brass knuckle. You take a dog choker chain about 18 inches long, and you keep it in your tights or your knee pad or whatever, and when you pull it out and you wrap it around your fist, it's visual. People can see it. The referee can't. You use it, boom, it's great, right? Lashley had a chain that looked like you would haul a fucking boat with it, It had to be, it was pulling it out of his pants, but it had to be 3 feet long. And the links were huge. If you wrap this around your fist and legitimately hit anybody, you'd break every bone in your hand and fingers, wouldn't you?
It was a pretty big chain, I have to admit.
It was huge. So then Goldberg rushes Lashley in the corner and gets all over him, even though it's not looking good because Lashley's covering up because he got a chain around his fist. And then he turns around and starts throwing punches and allegedly hits. Some of them came in the vicinity, some of them didn't. But Goldberg was selling them somewhat. He allegedly hit Goldberg 9 times, punched him with a chain wrapped around his fist, and Goldberg went to a knee. There was no blood. There was nothing's wrong with his face. He didn't go down. He wasn't knocked out. He took 9 shots with a logging chain around a guy's fist that weighs 275 pounds, went to a knee, and then Lashley dropped the chain, threw the chain out of the ring. Well, sure, after you shoot the guy 9 times, what do you need the gun for? Throw it away and pick up a club. So he throws the chain out and shovels Goldberg into the post, through the buckles into the post. And then Lashley, and I love Bobby Lashley as a human being and as a talent. He was being told to do these things. This was a setup match. Lashley went to the floor and looked under the ring, but couldn't find a chair. So he turns around, he sees one at ringside. He gets it from ringside, goes in, bashes Goldberg twice with the chair, then puts it down and runs Goldberg back into the post. Then Bobby goes to the floor, looks under the ring again, and pulls out the table that he was staring at and ignoring 30 seconds earlier when he was looking for a chair. And he pulls, I swear to God, all this was happening. Again, chairs, tables, ladders, fucking Jesus. So, and it slows the match down and it takes you completely out of it. And why the fuck is any of this happening? And half the time guys can't find the specific thing they're looking for. So then Lashley tries to get the table in the ring and he's strong as a bull, but the legs just get stuck open. He's got to close them up, can't hardly get it, and finally gets it in the ring. He goes over to Goldberg because now he realizes he's left Goldberg laying there selling for the better part of a minute. So he kicks Goldberg and then goes back and sets the table up and then goes back to Goldberg and gets back on him. And he tried to Pillmanize Goldberg's ankle with the chair, but he put the chair on wrong at the start and he couldn't figure it out then. And then you could see that he wasn't sure, well, what part of this do I stomp without really breaking his leg? Because the chair's, and he just kind of made some shit up. And then he came off the ropes with a big stomp to the chair, but he had to miss the chair completely and just act like he hit it, or he'd broken Goldberg's leg because the chair was on wrong. And then Lashley goes for a spear, but Goldberg moves and Lashley goes through the table. And then Goldberg finally comes up after all this time, hits him with a spear, a jackhammer. What a fucking feat. Hit it at Goldberg's age on a guy that size. Didn't cover Lashley after the jackhammer. Goldberg took an inordinate amount of time to get his gloves off. For whatever reason, I'm not sure, but he was intent on getting those gloves off. Then he threw Bobby out to the floor and speared him through the barricade. Brian, when was the first time that you ever saw somebody get speared through one of those black barricades on a WWE program? A few years ago, right?
It's been a few years, yeah.
How many times you seen it since?
Nonstop.
Well, they didn't stop here either. So they go through the barricade. Then Goldberg needs to find something under the ring, apparently, because he went to a couple of different sides, a couple of different places, but he couldn't find what he was locating or what he was trying to locate. So he moved the stairs over on the floor and then went back to Lashley and bashed him into the desk and into the rail. And somehow Lashley ended up, his arm was cut bad. It was bleeding pretty bad. And so, of course, since there's a real injury, the camera did everything they could to stay away from it. Then Goldberg picked up the stairs and tried to basically kill Bobby Lashley with the stairs, but Lashley moved. Lashley crawls down the entranceway. You've got Bobby Lashley, a beast like that. He's crawling. Goldberg follows, but as Lashley gets to the top of the entranceway there's Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, who were excommunicated from the Hurt Business quite some time back, right? But now
they were, but I believe because we don't watch Raw, we don't see what's happening. They may have been brought back into the Hurt Business recently.
They were reunited when they realized, well, we fucked this up royally, didn't we? The writers, so they put them back together on Raw. But now they're back together. But MVP was not there. Did he take a stand on "fuck you, I ain't going to Saudi Arabia"?
I'm not sure what MVP is.
Because he was conspicuous by his absence. But anyway. There's Cedric Alexander, there's Shelton Benjamin, and guess what they've got? The only thing that this match was missing, the only thing that we needed, kendo sticks. I'm not making this up. They bring kendo sticks. They hand one to Lashley. They've got two of them. They charge Goldberg, and Goldberg just gives Shelton a big boot and backdropped Cedric on the floor, got one of their sticks, and then just wore Bobby Lashley out with the kendo stick. I wrote, I hate this show. You can watch this anywhere. You can go buy a fucking ticket for $10 to any barn or rec center of any outlaw mud show in the country and see guys hitting each other with chairs and kendo sticks. This is a big-time show with supposedly big-time talent. And all they want to do is garbage matches, just like everybody else can do that doesn't even have any talent. And then Goldberg speared Lashley off the stage through 3 tables covered in a black cloth with something underneath them to soften the blow, but we couldn't really tell what it was. And at least it didn't go poof like Jericho's My Pillows that he lands on when he takes his big bumps. And was this Falls Count anywhere? Because the cover and the pin was made on the tables in the back of the arena on the floor. 1, 2, 3. Goldberg won.
I don't know if it was or wasn't. I just kind of figure everything is nowadays.
I guess it was. So now we've had the Hell in a Cell with everything in the world, and then we've had the Goldberg and Lashley with everything in the world, and interference and fucking chaos and gimmicks. And there's still 2 hours left in this program. Any final thoughts on Goldberg and Lashley?
Not really. And I know a lot of people really liked this show and thought it was a strong WWE event, but I couldn't get into it very much. And a lot of that may have been just the fact that it was the middle of the day. I don't know, but I wasn't.
No, because it doesn't matter what time of day it is. It's because you've seen all this shit 100 million times. Nothing ever hurts anybody until the finish. They get up when they're run over with 18-wheelers. There's garbage. There's no rules to anything. There's no heels. There's no baby faces because you don't have rules. There's no way to cheat. There's constant foreign objects. There's ridiculous interference. The referees have no power. This is gaga sports entertainment wrestling, just like AEW is gaga indie outlaw mud show wrestling. And a few people want to break through and do something serious and professional, but the only ones that can are the ones that have the power to not do what, because obviously these guys aren't going into business for themselves. They're being told to do this shit in these matches because the writers of this crap think this is what wrestling is because they've only seen, more of this same shit. They think this is what you do in wrestling. For the last however many years that these writers have probably been, since they've been old enough not to piss themselves and have their diapers changed, they've been growing up on action figures comes with a chair or a breaking table or a trash can or a toilet plunger.
I don't think this is the writers. I mean, this is Vince. This is what Vince wants. The writers aren't going, this is the wrestling I've always dreamed of. They're going, this is what I think I can get Vince and Bruce to approve. And I don't know how much of the actual in-match shit the writers are doing.
Well, honestly, besides the main events, Vince McMahon never approved or disapproved or even gave a fuck about a lot of the in-match stuff unless it sucked. And I don't know why he hasn't said something about this shit, because it sucks. But no, this is writers, producers, and mark wrestlers coming up with all this shit. Guess what match was next? Xavier Woods versus, I'll tell you, Xavier Woods versus Finn Balor.
This is when I left. I know for a fact I didn't see any of this.
Well, and why would anybody? Because, again... And this apparently was for the King of the Ring. And Xavier Woods beat Finn Balor to become the new King of the Ring. So now the heat's off of Mabel. Everybody always said the biggest fucking fiasco, the biggest shitty King of the Ring ever, Mabel. And the whole way that Mabel, well, now the heat's off Mabel now. They send these two poor schlubs, Finn Balor and Xavier Woods, out to have a single match with no gimmicks and have a wrestling match for the supposed King of the Ring after everybody else on his card has been out there with chainsaws. Next was Biggie versus Drew McIntyre for another one of the world championships. Now, here you have two baby faces. One won the belt by virtue of a fucking gimmick in a heel-type cash-in, and the other one's been screwed out of it, and nobody cares about him anymore because they decided they were going to push him like crazy, and he beat Brock Lesnar, and then they just fucking dropped that idea, and he's done more jobs than a goddamn telephone repairman since then. Did you see any of that? Because I didn't.
I didn't see any of that, no.
Because after that match, there was still an hour left. It was 3 hours in. We have not seen Roman Reigns and or Brock Lesnar. And the next match was the triple threat match for whatever the fuck it was for. One of the women's titles. They've just switched them. We'll talk about that in a second. But Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. And again, this is exactly what I wrote. How the fuck is this doing anything for, quote, women's empowerment when all these girls are wearing scuba diving outfits, wrist to ankle, because some fucking religious lunatics think God will be upset if he sees a girl's elbow? This looked like a training match in wrestling school, not because the girls can't work, but because they were all working out in sweats. It looked like a fucking practice match in wrestling school. This is a $50 million show. It's the biggest promotion in the wrestling business, and they have to be. They are having to tell their female performers to go out and wrestle in sweatpants because of these people's warped, demented beliefs in things. I didn't watch this, obviously, because three-way matches are always rotten. These clothes looked ridiculously unprofessional and amateur, and we still got over an hour left on his fucking show. But I'm not going to take it out on these girls for shit that they can't control. I don't know how this match was or wasn't. I know it went close to 30 minutes. So if I'd have watched it, I probably wouldn't have liked it. Because, goddamn, I've seen fucking oak trees grow quicker than this show was over. But and all the girls talking about, oh, we made history. And, oh, we got to go over and do this and do that and bring women forward. It's not a giant honor to go to Saudi Arabia to begin with. It's risking your life in a land full of fucking nuts. But the only way, to me, that they would have moved women forward or made any difference in the women's revolution is if they went over there and dressed the way they normally did and did their normal shit and showed those girls, yes, you can do it, because we are. But to go over there and play by their rules and wear these ridiculous outfits because of these goddamn freak fucking thoughts that this weird society has. If I was any of these girls, I'd have said, if you want me to go and work and dress like I usually do, then we'll talk about it. But if they don't want me like I normally am, they can go fuck themselves and follow it up with a camel up their ass. What'd you think of this match?
I don't think I saw any of this match either.
Good. So we can move on, because now what happened, or what we've been waiting for the past 3.5 hours happened. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. And what's Paul E going to do? And even the package, they did a nice package with the history. And I was thinking at the time I was watching the package, I think this is the only thing on this program so far that the fans 20 years ago watching probably wouldn't have shit on. This is star power with badasses and an intriguing story, kind of like they used to give them in the days of Austin and Rock and Taker and things like that. Of course, this match had controversy. Did you hear about the stipulation they announced and took back?
I heard a little bit about that. What happened?
Apparently on the pre-show, they announced that this match would be no disqualification. And then within 30 minutes, either at the end of the pre-show, before the thing even started, they said, no, both these guys really don't have any interest in the no DQ stipulation, so it's being dropped. Because they figured out, wait a minute, we're doing a screwy fucking finish that if it's a no DQ match like every other match we do, it really wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't get the desired result. So they announced the stipulation and took it back. But this was for another one of the world championships. But let's face it, actually the one that means something, because Reigns is a credible champion and Brock is going for it. So this is the title that means something, and Heyman's involved. The entrances took over 10 minutes. And that's another reason why these shows are for. I remember in the pay-per-views that did huge business in the 90s and early thousands, such as when they grossed $50 million in one night in the Houston Astrodome on pay-per-view with Austin and Rock. Those shows had a 3-hour window, and we had to beat it by 5 to 7 minutes, so they had time to re-rack the replay. Now these things are 4 hours plus, and they're worse, because they're now in those days, Vince, if it was the Undertaker's entrance, you got time. If it was some bizarre entrance like Michael's repelling in Anaheim or whatever, you got some time. But everybody else was like, make your entrance, milk the people, and get in a fucking ring, get the match started. 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes should be fine. They've gone out of their minds with these entrances. That's why it's another reason these shows are 4 hours long. So they finally get in there. The introduction is taking place. The ring announcer introduced Roman Reigns standing in at a weight of, I swear to God, he said that. I played it back so I could, standing in at a weight of. But then they got started. And it was a smash mouth match, serious stuff, two big guys. Brock kept going for the Germans. Reigns is trying to avoid him like a fucking, sick man going for penicillin. He's going for those ropes to hold on so that Brock can't take him for the ride. And then he'd fight back, and Brock Lesnar sells just like he should. He staggers. He doesn't take big bumps. He staggers. He's got facials like that was surprising, or, oh, that stung, or that hurt. But he doesn't oversell because he's a beast. And Reigns finally, he fought back a little bit, and he bumped Brock to the floor, and Reigns hit a dive over the top that looked like one of those old Undertaker dives. This wasn't some 170-pound little white midget diving onto a bunch of catchers. This was a big grown man diving way over the top rope, and he wiped Brock Lesnar out. made contact, and there was none of Brock like, oh, come to my waiting arms. He was waiting to get the impact, and fuck you, I'll take care of me, and you take care of you. And it looked like it hurt. And then Roman's hit a spear in the ring and got a 2 count, a big pop. They thought it might be over that quick. And then Reigns, there's 2 of the Superman punches and goes for his big spear, but Lesnar leapfrogged Reigns, and Reigns went into the fucking buckles. And now Brock is coming back. And did you notice Heyman at ringside? Normally, he does the facial reactions fantastic, even though he's not overly animated physically of his entire body because he's so morbidly obese now, he probably can't move around very well, but his face is amazing. But in this one, it was a stone face. He wasn't letting on to anybody whether he was happy or upset about whoever was in control. So he didn't stooge off, the question everybody wanted answered. And Brock gave Roman Reigns the German suplex over and over. And then he hit an F5. Boom, got a 2 count, which got a big pop. And then Brock goes for another F5, but Reigns catches him in a front face lock and tries to choke him out. Brock breaks it with a spine buster. Brock goes for the next F5, but they wiped out Little Nate, poor old Charles Robinson, the referee. And now Brock's got the cover, but there's no referee. So Brock goes over and this didn't make a lot of sense, but it was a cool visual. He picks Charles Robinson up by his belt like a suitcase. And then when he determines that the referee, who is the guy who can count the pin for him and allow him to win this thing, is not conscious, instead of trying to, hey, pal, bring him around a little bit, he just chucks him out of the ring. He's, fuck it. But it looked like something Brock would do. And then when he turns around, Reigns spears Brock from behind and everybody goes down. Now, here's a problem. The only problem I detected with this took too long. The referee's down. Both wrestlers are down. Everybody's down. The clock is ticking. But there's not a lot of move. And Paul comes up to ringside. I think this whole thing could have been tightened up a little bit. I'll explain how in a second. But he's got the title belt in his hands. And he throws the belt in between both Brock and Reigns and says, you know what to do with it. And they each look over and start reaching for it. And then they have the tug of war. And Brock snatches it away, but as soon as he turns around, the Usos are there for a double super kick. Boom, and Reigns has got the belt. And he nails Lesnar a big shot and throws the belt out and covers Lesnar. And immediately, second referee's in the ring. What immaculate timing. How did it happen that way by sheer happenstance? 1, 2, 3. It was a good finish. It was a wrestling finish. I can see Pat Patterson sitting down and laying this out. Problem is, Pat Patterson would have laid it out right and closed up the loophole I'm about to tell you. It's just bullshit when the exact moment that the heel does the damage the heel is going to do, the second referee comes out instantly, 1, 2, 3, like that. Boom, as soon as Paul threw the belt in, as soon as they saw it and they both had a tug of war for it, boom, when Lesnar ripped it away, and also they shouldn't have laid there that long. They should have kept it moving. But when Lesnar ripped it away, right then the Usos could have been there for that double super kick. Boom. And then let a second referee come down as they've jumped out of the ring. Let the second referee come down and be getting them away from ringside. So the referee is kicking the Usos out. And that's when Reigns uses the belt, boom, and smacks Lesnar and chucks the belt out of the ring. And when the second referee turns around, he's already down there. That's when he can see the cover and go back in, boom. It struck me wrong that just the instant slide in. I don't know, you know what I'm saying, Brian? I do. It's so convenient.
They were just all of a sudden there.
Yeah. Why wasn't he there for the previous minute and 45 seconds? When your first referee goes down, as I've said before, the clock is ticking. Somebody within 30 seconds in the back, some referee watching or some official, would have the power to send that person down to replace the injured referee. So everything within that first 30 seconds has to go on that a referee shouldn't really see. And then if you're going to do a run-in like with the Usos, do it at that point, then let the second referee come out and not see them doing damage, but see them there to be distracted by, to get them out while something else goes on in the ring. The whole thing takes 40 seconds fucking tops, and you can get by with it because you've left Robinson laying out there for 5 minutes. And that's just, I can't imagine. I've never had to do a spot like that because I was in the wrestling business, not the sports entertainment business. I can't imagine what it would be like to have to lay unconscious, allegedly, in front of the fans at ringside for 4 or 5 minutes from taking a kick to the head or a stray shoulder tackle or whatever, and you've got to pretend like you're... And, you know, I've heard the people screaming, "Get up, you son of a bitch, you know you're okay." So you just... When you leave loopholes open like that, for the people to turn to each other and go, "Well, look, that's bullshit. He's been down there forever. What, is he dead?" Then they're not paying close attention to what's going on in the rest of the finish. And you leave people the opportunity to run their mouths about it. Anyway. But otherwise than that, I don't know if it was worth going through 4 hours of the cock to see this match, but this was a good quality world championship match. What'd you think?
I thought it was good up until the finish, although I like the Heyman thing of, you know, go for it, do what you got to do. Whatever, I forget exactly what he said. You know what to do. You
know what to do with it. It was a play on the Dynamic Dudes in the Midnight Express. When, you know, when Shane got the fucking chain and away from Bobby, and then I grabbed it and threw it out. Said, now everything's fair again, and then boom. It's a kind of a play on that.
But the same way I don't like the Young Bucks or anyone interfering in the Omega matches, that even if it's a match I like, it immediately takes it down. It's the same thing with Roman Reigns. I mean, I get the Usos are his guys, but at this point, every match, why aren't you looking for the back, waiting for them to run in?
That spot wasn't really necessary. They could have done the tug of war with the title belt, and Brock could have jerked it away. And then they could have done something with Brock looking at Heyman like, "What the fuck are you trying to pull here?" And let Reigns nutshot him from behind and grab the belt and do the same thing. I don't know. But the Usos it was more like we got to figure out a place to put the Usos in rather than we really need the Usos. Anyway, that was the crown jewel. My, what a sparkling, polished diamond it was.
Oh, I thought you were going to say what a wonderful propaganda campaign it was.